Welcome back to the channel. My name is Adam Smith, and inside this GameFound preview series, we head into the setup video for Spellrift Legends, coming from Jagori Games. It's landing on GameFound in the very near future. The exact date, as well as a campaign page link, can be found in the pinned comment and video description. Now, if you haven't had a chance to check out my prototype unboxing or the how to set up video that got everything here to the table, you want to check those out because the prototype unboxing will show you all the components that came, even if they don't show up during gameplay, and the how to set up video will show you how all of this got to the table. Now, before I dive into gameplay, let's learn a little bit more about what Spellrift Legends is all about. And on top of that, we're also going to learn about the win and loss conditions. We'll touch on the hero I've chosen, the boss we're going up against, our overall objective inside the game, and also solo-specific rules as I'm playing true solo with just a single character. When the first Void Rift tore open, it pierced the seams between planes. Entire realities collapsed, consumed by a hunger older than creation. From this ruin surged the Void Spawn, legions of horrors growing stronger each day. Now its gaze turns upon more worlds. In desperation, the greatest spellcasters combine their power to summon legendary heroes, warriors from fallen empires, sages of forgotten ages, champions of lost kingdoms. You are one of these champions. You must aid the people, reclaim your power weakened by the passage, hunt for artifacts to aid your fight, and seal the rifts that bleed corruption into the land. Only then can you confront the entity guiding this invasion. If you succeed, the realms endure. If you fail, many worlds fall with you. Let's discuss the win and loss conditions for the game. A victory is when you as the player complete the boss's unique objective and then summon and defeat the boss in a climactic battle. Now on the boss card, you'll see an awareness track across the bottom, and for this boss, it ties into Eyes in the Darkness. It says, whenever a hero closes a Void Rift, you add 1 to the awareness track, and if the tile happens to have a despair token, you instead add 2. And you'll also notice down at the very bottom, it scales based on the hero count, and for us, it's going to be 7 on the awareness track. That will force this to flip over to the back side. And at that point, effects may occur, but the boss will come into the world itself, and we'll be able to try and defeat it in battle. Now let's talk about the defeat conditions. There are 4 ways you can lose a game of Spellrift Legends. The first is if the Doom Tracker ring reaches 40. It's currently on 12, and that's per the boss card, but if it increases to 40 during gameplay, that is a loss. The second way you can lose the game is if all heroes are defeated simultaneously. Now, if you're playing true solo like I will be, you actually are defeated upon your 3rd defeat instead. In other words, my hero can go down twice, no problem, but the 3rd time is going to be a loss. Now, it's worth mentioning that when you're defeated the 1st and 2nd time when playing true solo, there are some other negative effects that are going to impact you. We'll talk about this later on. The third way you can lose the game is if all 8 worlds surrounding the Spellrift tile have a despair token inside of them. Despair token looks like this. It has a skull. If there is one of these tokens in each one of the 8 worlds, that's a loss. And the final way you can lose the game is if you have to draw a boss card and there's no more in the deck. At that point, that is also a loss. Now, the thing to be aware of with true solo play is that the game phases of a round are going to change. So instead of it being journey phase, exploration phase, and boss phase, when playing true solo, it's going to be journey phase, exploration phase, back to journey phase, then exploration phase, and then boss phase. So essentially, as a true solo player, you're going to get to go twice before the boss phase triggers, and then it goes into another round. And again, as I mentioned earlier, there's the defeat condition for true solo players. So again, you have to be defeated 3 times to be taken out completely, and each defeat is still going to advance the doom, but you respawn at the start of your next journey phase. There's some ally-required effects that are going to happen with solo play. We'll talk about those when we run into them. It's worth noting that a lone hero that I'll be playing has fewer movement options and a smaller HP pool, but earns XP faster and strengthens their deck quickly. So 2 turns per round keeps pace with multiplayer while still letting the boss phase pressure the world once per round. Now, before I dive into my very first round of play, I do want to mention something for people that are considering picking this one up through the GameFound campaign. If you like Slay the Spire, the board game, and or Eldritch Horror, this is going to be a game of interest for you. Without further ado, let's dive into round number 1. We head into the journey phase, and the first thing that happens is we gain 2 legend points, so we'll bring this up to 2 on the track. We're also going to draw 3 cards from the top of our deck, and after drawing the 3 cards, if we have more than 7, we have to discard down to 7. Here are the 3 cards I'm starting off with. The top section of the card is all around attacks. You'll see 2 melee attack cards, and then there's one on the right there for a ranged attack, and then below, all of it is skill. So the cards are twofold in that you can use them for the top half or the bottom half in terms of attacks or for skill checks, but you can also use the card per the colored banner, and that ties to the worlds around the Spellrift and allow you to discard the card to gain effects like additional movement, for example. Now your legend points, which are tracked in this yellow column right here, is a key resource in the game. You can spend 1 to move to an adjacent location. You can spend 1 to re-roll a die inside of tests and combat, and you can go ahead and activate some abilities on cards and other item effects you have. Now you'll remember from the setup video that we have this quest, which is currently sitting over in the ancient world, and I'll show you that in just a second. There's also an enemy over there, but this says if we complete the test by negotiating with a merchant, we can pass and gain ourselves some XP. Of course, we fail, something negative is going to occur. We also have a personal quest for Hercules here called Obey the Oracle, and this one has us trying to complete a quest. So as long as we're pushing for these, we can actually complete our personal quest. Now, as we take a look across the worlds, the one I'm really focused on right now is in the ancient world in blue up there. There's a monster we can go up against over there. There is a rift that we want to try and close in purple. That token on the A location. There's a quest token off to the right. And of course, that will help us with trying to complete a quest, which goes towards our personal objective. And remember, when you're setting up the game, you'll have differences in terms of how things are set up each and every time you play it. So the strategy won't be the same every time. So I'm going to go ahead and spend 2 legend points right now, dropping it down to 0 in order to move 2 locations. I've used one of my 2 movement. I've moved from A to B, and you know which ones are connected by the bright colored paths, and these paths will go through connection points leading you out of the Spellrift and into a specific world. So for my second movement, I can go straight through as these 2 are each half of that connection, and I can go right to location C. That's going to do it for the journey phase. We now move to the exploration phase where we can choose to resolve an encounter card from the world we're inside of. This is known as the ancient world, as depicted atop the world deck. So we can draw this card to see what we need to accomplish in the encounter. You can also get a little bit of a hint as to what you'll gain in the future if you're successful at completing this. So it says right on it, Scrolls of Wisdom, draw 2 cards. We'll go ahead and flip it over to the opposite side and find out more about what this test has for us. The Cracked Gatehouse. It says a recent attack shattered the gate protecting the city, leaving its stone walls unstable. Guards request your aid to lift fallen beams and fortify the entrance before enemies seize this weakness. We need a strength test and we need to hit a 6 or higher to be successful and pass. If we pass, we go to the blue section. If we fail, we go to the red section. So let's talk about how tests are resolved. First off, if you choose not to roll any dice whatsoever, then you automatically fail and you just follow the fail condition on the card and move on. However, if you want to try and succeed at the test, you're going to be taking a look at the hand of cards that you have and looking at the test section on the very bottom, as it might provide some benefits that you can take advantage of. When you're trying to pass a test, you'll take a look across the skill sections of your card, keeping in mind the top section, because whatever you use in order to enhance a skill check, you're going to lose the top half. So if you have a plan to do some melee attack in the future, ranged attacks in the future, you might want to keep certain cards and not use them for certain tests, and that'll be part of the strategy for you. Also, you can only use skills that actually apply to the test you're doing, and the one I'm doing right now is a red skill check, and that is not going to work for these 2 right here. I could use an instant, discarding this card, draw 2, and then I discard 2 afterwards. Essentially allows you to cycle your hand looking for something better. I'll hold on to this for later on. Now these 2 cards could actually benefit me because the skill sections actually apply to red. You'll see this one is like a wild, so 1 die is given for any test color you run into. Pretty cool. This one over here is either 1 green or 1 red, so I can absolutely get 2 dice by burning both of these cards if I want to. There's also an instant. Another way to use this card is to reroll up to 2 dice in a test, so that's a nice thing to use. Again, that's separate from what you got up above. And then the exploit, this is cool. This is actually a very interesting ability you can have on your hero. So you can have it maximum 2 exploit cards. So if I chose, before this test ever happened, if I wanted to take this card and place it above my dashboard, the exploit is like a passive effect, and all 8s on tests would now count as 3 successes. So you want to think carefully about what cards you want to place up here as passives, because if it has the word exploit, you can put 2 of them up there and give yourself some cool passive abilities you can make use of. And of course, if you have an exploit you want to use and put up there as a new passive, and you already have 2 up there, you can just discard 1 to put the new one in. Now, getting back to the test, which is more focused around trying to get some dice going here, I'm going to go ahead and discard this card here to be a 1 red, which will tie into the test we're doing, so we get 1d8. So again, when we're rolling 1d8, we're only looking for a 6 or higher, and in terms of how the die works, essentially anything that is within the success criteria is considered 1 success. If you get a critical, which of course is going to be an 8 on a d8, then that is going to count for 2 successes, and that is why that card that I had as an exploit, you can actually put that up top here in order to turn a critical success into 3 successes instead. Now, this doesn't matter much for the test because we're just looking for 1 to be successful, but when we get into combat, you will see that getting additional successes definitely a good thing. All right, let's go ahead and make the roll. We're looking for a 6, 7, or 8 to be successful at this, and we got ourselves an 8. Are you kidding me? So that is a critical success, and that actually does matter for this test, and you'll see why right on the card. So sometimes it does matter, sometimes it doesn't, but this is going to count for 2 successes, and the reason it matters is when you pass, you're going to gain 2 XP plus the number of successes in XP. So 2 plus 2 is 4 XP. You stabilize the structure, reinforcing the defenses. Grateful officials reward you. Draw 3 items and keep 1. Top 3 cards off the item deck are as follows. We got the Sword of Harmonies, Axe of Merciful Kill, and Buddha's Wisdom. So we have your last attack of each round gains a die per active combat effect you have. That's beneficial. We'll talk more about the keyword combat later on. Once per round, an enemy loses health equal to half what you lost to that enemy, rounding down. That's pretty wild. And this one is a plus d8 to any white specific attacks. You can reroll 1 on your white attacks once per round. These all seem beneficial. It's tough to decide this. And we were trying to decide what weapon you should take. Good idea to take a look at the enemies around the game board and their vulnerabilities. You'll find it right here in the line in the center of the card, vulnerable to, and it has a yellow icon of a die in there, and that is to divine attacks. The corrupted are vulnerable to a different color. It's red, and that is known as a damage type brutal. So for damage types across the enemies, red is brutal, green is precision, blue is arcane, gray or white, as I called it earlier, is spiritual, and yellow is divine. For those that are interested, there's a table inside the rulebook that breaks down exactly what each of these symbols mean when you're talking about tests. So for instance, the red is strength, agility is green, intelligence is blue, and so on. But when you're talking about damage types and the colors, which we were just talking about moments ago, they are called something a little bit different. All of these are really great weapons, but I think the Axe of Merciful Kill will come in really beneficial. Now, in terms of your inventory for equipping different items, you can have 1 weapon, 1 armor, and 1 shield. There's no limit on the number of accessories you can have. We also gained 4 XP, and this is tracked using these white cubes on the dashboard. As soon as we have 5, we get to level up. When you complete an encounter card, you're going to flip it over to the favor side. So essentially, inside the world we're in, the ancient world, we've gained favor, and the favor at the very bottom says Scrolls of Wisdom, draw 2 cards. Now, these favor cards represent your contributions to the region or the world that may be spent in future journey phases to gain a unique reward, which is specified right there on the card. You'll keep those favor cards, and when inside of that world, when you go to the A location, you're going to be able to go ahead and turn that favor in to do what that card states. So you can convert that favor into some advantage, in this case, drawing some additional cards. That's going to likely come in really handy, but at this point, that's the end of the exploration phase. We now go back to the journey phase, yet again for a second turn with our hero, because again, we're playing true solo. So our legend points are going to jump up by 2 from 0 to 2, and we're drawing 3 cards, and we still kept 2 cards. So now we have a total of 5, and we're still underneath the limit of 7. If we had more than 7, we had to discard down. So go ahead and draw 3 cards up, and then I'll show them to you up close. The 2 cards I already had were these 2 right here, and we just gained Pillar Breaker Blow, another Atlas Guard card, and another Pillar Breaker Blow. You might be going, well, why are we getting so many of the duplicates in here? That's because this is the 10-card starter deck, and once we get to 5 XP, we're going to be able to level up our character and draft additional cards from this larger deck into our deck, which is going to make it more unique and more powerful. I'm going to use a single legend point to get in the same space as the Void Rift as well as the enemy. I have 1 legend point left, but I'm not going to use it to move. I'm going to choose to stay right where I am. We're going to move from the journey phase to the exploration phase. At this point, I can choose to attack the enemy, or I could choose to close the Void Rift. I'm choosing to try and close a Void Rift. Let's flip it over and see what we have. It says Ink-Tide Nexus. Beyond the Void Rift churns an ocean of ink, waves swelling impossibly beneath a sky of shifting, maddening glyphs. Dark whispers rise, carving unsettling truths into your mind. On a fragile ice skiff, you seek the ocean's nexus, anchoring the corrupted glyphs before they consume your sanity. We can choose either one of these in order to try and get a 6+, and if we get one success, we're able to pass. If we don't, we fail. I'm going to discard this Atlas Guard card right here. This has a wild symbol on it, so we'll get 1 die when we discard it. Also worth mentioning, we have 1 legend point left, so when we roll this die, we could use that legend point for a reroll. Now we're looking for a 6 or higher, so cross your fingers. We're hoping we can close this Void Rift and avoid any pain in the future. And we got a 6 right on the dot. We didn't even have to use the legend point. So a pass gives us 4 XP plus 1 XP for each success, so a total of 5 is coming at us. It says, chanting an ancient incantation, your voice slices through madness, silencing the cursed glyphs. The ink sea crystallizes, shattering into stardust. Close this Void Rift and gain 2 legend points. Now we gained 5 XP on top of the 4 we have right here, so instead of placing 9 down, we're going to immediately get rid of 5 because the moment you get to the 5 threshold, you're going to be able to upgrade. So we're going to go ahead and toss the 5 we just gained and just keep the 4 we already have. We'll do an upgrade in just a second, but the legend points are going to increase by 2, which is awesome. The Void Rift at location B in the ancient world is no more. However, the Eye of Nothingness is watching from afar, and even though it's not present in this world, it's going to trip its awareness. As you remember from earlier in the video, it says, Eye in the darkness. Whenever a hero closes a Void Rift, add 1 to awareness. If on a tile with a despair token, it adds 2 instead, and you turn this pad over when you reach 7 for a true solo play, so we're up to 1 at this point. That's going to do it for my hero in round number 1. We now move to the boss phase, and the first thing you do is advance the Doom track. Doom represents the collapse of reality itself, and you're going to increase the Doom for every enemy group that is alive on the game board. We currently have 2 groups, so no matter the amount of miniatures, essentially you're just looking for the specific cards around the game worlds, we have 2 enemy groups out right now, so the Doom is going to 14. Now there is something very important around the Doom track that is worth understanding, and that is when Doom hits 20, there is a shift that occurs. At that point, you're no longer going to draw monster cards when asked to. You'll be drawing elite monster cards going forward, and yes, the Doom can increase, but it can also be pulled back and reduced. There's different game effects in the different explorations in the world that will allow you to reduce the Doom. So we're at 14 right now. We're 6 away from seeing elite monsters, and yes, you can actually trip over to the elite side and then actually reduce back down to the monster side and go back to drawing just regular monsters. So you want to try and mitigate that as much as possible because, well, more elite monsters certainly won't be a good thing. The next step of the boss phase is to draw a boss card. We got Eyes on the Roads, and we're playing True Solo, so you'll see this is the one we're focused on, which is a new Void Rift occurring in world number 3. We also have some flavor text here. It says, travelers speak fearfully of stalking eyes in the shadows, following those who journey along the roads, believing them responsible for mysterious disappearances. They believe darkness will claim all who venture beyond the safety of light and flame. The effect at the very bottom says round. The first movement each hero makes costs 1 extra movement point. So let's go ahead and spawn our Void Rift. We know it's going to be in World 3, so it's going to occur in this world right here, which is actually adjacent to us, so that's beneficial. And this is going to have us flip over one of these tokens to find out what location it's going to spawn at. It will be A, so it's right here. Now, after spawning a Void, you might be told to spawn a monster, and you'll know this by the icon being right afterwards. You can see with all of their cases of player count or hero count, you are definitely going to be spawning monsters, but for solo, true solo, there's no monster spawns happening. But I'll still talk about what happens in this case if we got one. So if we hypothetically had a monster icon, we'd start in world number 1 and we look for any Void Rift tokens. There are none. We continue to 2. There's none. And we go all the way around the game board to 8. So we go all the way through. We'd stop right here at 3 is the first one. We draw an enemy card for that. It'd be a regular enemy card, not an elite, because we haven't gone that far up the Doom track yet. Once we hit 20, they become elite. When you draw the enemy card, it's going to tell you the location that those enemies come in at. So it will not always be at the same location as the actual Void token. It could be completely different. When we set up this play, we got very lucky in that the enemies actually landed at the exact same locations as the Void Rift tokens. That doesn't always happen. So if we had that monster icon, we'd be drawing an enemy card for this Void Rift here and going all the way around to this Void Rift here for 2 more enemy cards being added into the worlds. Now, if you happen to get a boss card that has no spawning of any additional Void Rifts, and you've also cleared out every single Void Rift in the entire game, and it tells you to do a monster spawn, and there's no Void Rifts in any worlds to actually trigger a monster spawn, then you're going to go ahead and roll a d8, you're going to check the tile number, and you're going to spawn a Void Rift on a random tile. We've now done everything on the card. This is going to stay in effect until the next time the boss draws an event card. Now, this is something that I'm doing and not required by the game state, but I'm going to place this card in the Spellrift tile just to remind myself of this ongoing effect. In other words, the first movement each hero makes is going to cost 1 extra movement point. That's going to wrap up round number 1 of play. Let's start round number 2. Let's gain our legend points as well as drop 3 new cards, and we have 4 in hand, so we'll be at our maximum of 7, which is perfect, allowing us to probably do quite a bit this coming turn. And here's a look at the 3 cards I just added into my hand. Now, inside this journey phase, I'm actually going to stay put, so we're not going to be doing too much, but I will mention other things you can do as part of your journey phase. One of those things is to go ahead and trade. Now, you're not going to trade much if you're playing true solo, but something else you can do is spend favors, so you can try to get yourself into a position where you can actually spend your favors. Again, you have to be in the A location of that world and have the matching world card to be able to pull that off. But something else you can do is you can use utilities, which is the hero card's bottom. When I was talking before about putting those passive effects into play, you do this during the journey phase. During the journey phase, when you can take a look at those bottom keywords like instant and exploit and use them as you wish to get an instant effect, like drawing 2 more cards, discarding 2 to try and find better things. Again, if your deck runs out, you just simply replenish it and continue onwards. It's worth mentioning for exploit has to be used during this journey phase, but instants can be used instantly whenever it makes sense to do the effect. So for instance, you could do this no problem right now. There's some here that allow you to reroll up to 2 dice in a test. Of course, you wouldn't use that unless you were actually inside of a test, for example, but most of the exploits are going to put those passive abilities above your character, and usually it's all around planning what you're thinking of doing in the future. I'm going to use an exploit, and we're going to place it underneath the dashboard so it takes up less space. Normally you'd place it above, but I'm just choosing to place it down below. So 8s on test now count as 3 successes. This should be helpful during combat. And speaking of combat, let's go into our first battle with this void creature. There is only 1 of this enemy, and it comes in with 10 health, so we can take any of these we want to represent that enemy. So we'll take this blue one here, and we'll place it on 10. And we're going to go ahead and pull this die over to the side. We'll be rolling this die for this enemy. Now, if you happen to have a group, because as you saw, the other enemy group I set up has 3 in it, 3 miniatures, they'd be represented by each of these, so you could track all 3 of the different individuals in that enemy group when you attack them. In this case, there's just 1, so we're going head-to-head, but they have a higher HP. Now, this enemy has a power sap ability, it says at the end of each round, and 1 combat effect. So if you have a combat effect in play, it will end it, and if it does, it's going to heal itself. So as long as we don't use those, then this won't be able to take advantage of any of it. So we know the health of the enemy is 10. Now, the 6 in shields actually represents the value you need to get on the die or above to get a hit. Now, something else worth keeping an eye on is those vulnerabilities, because certain monsters will have vulnerabilities to certain types of attacks, and the damage type that it's vulnerable to is divine damage, which is yellow. So a round of combat entails the following: an intent roll from the enemy or enemies, then a hero commits, then the range step occurs, then the melee step occurs, and then the round ends. Now it's time to make the intent roll for the enemies, or in this case, enemy, because there's only 1 of them, so we have 1 die to roll for intent. If we had 3 in the group, we'd roll 3 dice, 2 in the group, roll 2 dice, that kind of thing. So we roll right now, we got ourselves a 2. That is going to be 2, you can see a sword icon, and then 1, what looks like armor. Now looking at the card, as you can see close up, this sword symbol right here represents damage, so 2 damage, and this is 1 armor. The armor is gained by the enemy immediately on the intent roll. And it's also important to note what type of an attack this enemy is going to be doing. It'll be doing a melee attack. It can be ranged as well. Now it's time for my hero to commit cards to the attack, and we know this enemy is vulnerable to divine attack, so the yellow die symbol is the one we're looking for. Now this could be mass overkill or it might be great, but the one thing I am keeping an eye on is the fact that I've used a card with round keyword in here. So at the end of all the attacks that go through, as you'll see as we head further into the round of this combat, there is a potential that the power sap could trigger, but I'm banking on the fact that with enough dice coming from these different attacks and enough vulnerable damage coming from them, I hopefully can take this thing down before it gets a chance to heal. Now remember earlier I mentioned the combat round and how it flows. It goes ranged attacks first and then melee attacks. So typically you're going to want to line your cards up left to right like this, but you can absolutely put ranged cards after melee cards again if you're trying to pull off a certain strategy within your combat. However, they're going to resolve after the melee cards resolve, meaning after the monster's ranged attacks. So instead of taking the nice advantage of what a ranged attack provides you, you're giving the monster, if it has a ranged attack, the ability to attack you first, and that ranged attack you have is delayed and pushed till later. So now with our cards committed, we can move on to the range step where heroes fire all committed range cards in order. So we're throwing a Sky Javelin ranged attack towards this enemy, giving us 2 dice, and this type of damage, Divine, is going to be great against this Void threat. Let's go ahead and roll the dice and see what we get. Now if we have any extra effects to add in at this point, we would. Before the roll, let's go ahead and see how we do. So we got ourselves a 6 and a 2, and again, we're checking against the defense of the enemy, which is a 6, so we have 1 hit here, which is great. Again, when you have vulnerable damage type to the enemy, it's going to double the amount. So instead of 1 success off this, we're getting 2 successes, and I'm going to go ahead and spend 1 legend point to go ahead and re-roll this too, because I'm not happy with what happened there. Let's see what we get. A 1. That is not good. Now, here's something interesting. This is considered a critical fail. So if we decide we want to re-roll this die, we can, but it's going to cost 3 legend points to pull that off. Now what's even nastier is that these critical fails represent fumbles, which essentially mean it'll be -1 success to the total pool. So even though I'm getting 2 off this, this is going to actually reduce it by 1. So in a way, I might want to actually spend the 3 legend points painfully from 4 down to 1 to re-roll it and hope we don't land the exact same result. I'm looking for a critical success. That would be awesome, and we didn't get it. That was a big price to pay in legend points, but we got rid of the fumble, so now we actually have 2 successes. This one doesn't count for anything. This gives us 1 off of the actual successful hit at 6 or higher, and then we get an additional 1 because it's vulnerable to this type of actual damage. So 2 successes against the 1 armor, and again, we're looking based on the die the enemy got, so that's 1 damage getting through. So the reroll was actually worth it from the sake of getting 1 single damage, because if I didn't reroll it, nothing would have got through. Now the other thing to note is the second that the enemy uses its armor, the armor is now gone for the rest of combat. We still have to go to melee now, and this is where I'm hoping these attacks can start going straight through and get heavier hits against that enemy. The same applies to us. We have armor that comes in, and it can only be used 1 time, and then it is gone. The range step is now done. As my hero has finished ranged attacks, we move to the melee step. And in here, the monsters, if they're ranged, are going to shoot right now. This one is a melee attack monster, so there's no ranged attacks from the enemy coming at me right now. But now we move to the melee portion, which essentially for the heroes means to take a look at all the melee attack cards and any range that might actually be hiding back here as well. And you resolve them left to right all the way through the row at this point. Then the enemy gets to go ahead and make its melee attack. Now here's a structured breakdown of exactly how the combat round goes and what I just explained. So the intent roll happens, the heroes commit their cards. The ranged step happens where heroes are going to fire all their committed range cards in order. Then the melee step happens, but first the range monsters get to act. Then the melee triggers off with the heroes going, and then the enemy monsters, and then the round ends. Let's go into the melee attacks for my hero. So we got 1 die here, divine damage coming through, +1 for the increase of other attacks by 1 die, which is awesome. So Sky Javelin's going to give that extra die for both of these melee attacks, which is great. So 2 D8s going in. Hopefully we see a critical, and we do. Oh, we got one that actually, oh my gosh, what a mess. So this is going to be 3 successes thanks to that exploit ability that I put on my card, which is awesome, but this is going to take 1 away. I don't want to have that happen. So the question is, do I spend 1 more legend point, the only one that I have, in order to re-roll it? I think I'm going to. I want to try and not hurt myself on this because now there's no armor for this enemy and everything gets through. I want to get a bunch of damage, and a 7. That's a solid hit right there. So now we got 4 damage right there. Let's go for our next attack here. Exact same thing. 2 dice going in. Let's see how we do. We got ourselves a 4 and a 3. Those are 2 misses. Do we have any ability to reroll? Well, not from legend points, but maybe something in hand. Taking a look here, I can reroll up to 2 dice in a test. This is not a test. This is combat. And no, I think at this point, that is where the attacks are going to end from my side. Now, strategically, I have deep regrets here because I could have actually gone ahead and put these ones at the tail end of this row, and this would have actually been a benefit, giving an additional die to each of these pillar breaker blows, which would have been 3 dice rolls. I didn't think I needed them, but as you can see, I was definitely wrong on that. Now, the good news is I was prepared and I have 2 armor. And again, that armor gets depleted when the enemy makes attacks against me. A melee attack's coming at me right now. And based on what it rolled, a 2, it's going to be 2 damage, but it's fully blocked by what I put out here. So nothing going through to my HP. It remains at 20. So at this point, we reset going into a brand new round. So first off, the armor reset occurs, which means all armor across everybody, heroes and enemies, is completely reset to 0 if there was any remaining. Cards get refreshed now, so each hero, in my case just myself, I get to draw 3 cards right now. I have 3 in hand, so now I'll have a total of 6. So in drawing out my 3 cards, there was only 1 card left in the deck, and it was Lion Strangler. So at this point, you've seen all 10 of the starter cards come through my hand. So replenishing the deck from all discarded cards, including what came from round 1 and everything that was used prior. I've drawn up 2 more to make the 3, and these are the 2 going into my hand. Before we go into round number 2, we check to see if the enemy group's been taken out. It has not. Or if the hero's been taken out, and I have not. Now, important thing to note is I misinterpreted something, but it had no gameplay effect whatsoever, but that is around the power sap. It says at the end of each round, end 1 combat effect. We did not have a combat effect that was actually sitting in my row. I had a round effect, and round effects will just disappear after the round is over. Combat effects will sit for the entirety of combat, and as combat is resolved once someone is taken out completely, whether it's the hero or the enemy, that is the only effect that will actually trigger the power sap, so no healing here. I'm going to play 2 pillar breaker blows, and it's worth mentioning if you want to see an example of one that actually has the combat keyword, this Lion Strangler one I just got is a perfect example. You can see it right there. So that actually placed into my row would trigger this effect at the end of the round. I'm going to commit another card into my attack here, so now we can move on to the ranged attack step. I don't have any ranged attacks to do, so we move on to melee. First off, if this was a ranged enemy, it would shoot right now, but it does not have that. So melee means I get to go first and start resolving my cards. I do have 1 here. Again, this is a vulnerable damage type. These ones will not be vulnerable, but there's more dice. Well, actually, it'll end up being the same anyway. So 1 plus an additional die is 2. We're doing the same thing we did last time. Again, I'm going into this with no legend rerolls on that. So here we go. Hoping to see 6 or higher on this die roll. We got ourselves an 8. That is going to be a critical success, which is awesome. So 3 right there, and it has no defense. So 3 damage gets straight through. The enemy has 2 HP left. Let's go ahead and make the next melee attack with 2 dice. This one does not get the vulnerable bonus. We got a 6 and a 6. That is exactly what we needed to kill this one off. Now, there is something else to the equation of making attacks that's worth mentioning. That is a basic ability on my character. So this, of course, is going to kill out this one enemy, which is awesome. We'll talk about what happens after that in just a second. But I do want to show you something on the hero dashboard I had in my back pocket in case this attack didn't work out. And then I went to the next one, and that one also maybe didn't work out. You can actually kind of plan to beef up your attacks beyond just rerolls. On Hercules' dashboard, you can see basic abilities. You can discard a card, 1 card in combat to add a die or to add armor to yourself, or you can discard 2 during a test to add a wild of any color in terms of helping you out with the test. So that is another way you can kind of push yourself a little bit further. And I had 3 cards in hand, so if those dice didn't work out, I certainly would have been pushing for extra dice in combat. The enemy's been killed off, the miniature can be removed, and the enemy card itself will tell you how much XP you're going to gain, and you can see for this particular card, it is 4 XP. So we gained 4 XP. On top of the 4 XP we have here, which is a total of 8, and 5 is needed to level up, so we'll just keep 3, and we have a level up to do. But here's the thing, as I mentioned earlier in the video, and on screen as well, I forgot to actually level up and add new cards into my deck from the first level up. So this is now the second level up, so for this one, we'll be doing 2 level ups back to back right now. So let's do the level up I should have done prior right now. So we're going to go ahead and draw 3 cards off the top of the deck, and here's the ones that I got. I'm picking one right now from these, and you can see at the bottom the rarity of the cards. You got commons, uncommons. You'll even find rares in the deck. You might pick based on that, but more strategically, you should take a look at what the card can offer you and also what color banners across the top for what world the card can interact with, so you can discard it and make use of it in different ways, or just synergies with your own deck, because as you go further into the game, you're trying to build combinations during combat just like you would in a deck building game, especially one like Slay the Spire, where you're trying to combine cards that actually will work together in a way that provides you the best bang for buck. So in this case, looking across these, we got some interesting choices and some very powerful and dice heavy attacks. Out of the 3, I'm going to go with Enduring Wave and Fresh Start. I think this is going to be a great card for the future. So I place the card I selected right into my hand. The other 2 go to the bottom of the deck, and that's going to deal with the retroactive level up I should have done a while back. Now we're going to do the level up for the XP we just gained. We have 3 remaining after this level up, and we get to choose one of these 3 cards. I'm going to select this card right here. The other 2 are going to the bottom of the upgrade deck. I think this will be great. It's heading right into my hand. I've got a total of 5 now. Now there's one more effect to resolve right on my hero's dashboard. Endless Journey says when you win a combat, you can move 1 toward a quest to gain 1 legend point. And we are literally 1 away from a quest, so let's take advantage. We've now made it to that quest location. I've also bumped myself up by 1 legend point. Now I believe that this effect does apply because the first movement each hero makes costs 1 extra movement point, and this would technically be considered a movement. Even the ability on my card has move and movement in capital letters, so I believe this would apply. So I do have to actually spend a legend point I just got for doing this movement to a quest just to actually do it because of this effect that's currently in play. Otherwise, I'd just be gaining a legend point. So we're right back down to 0 legend points. Our hero now moves into the second journey phase for this round, so we get 2 legend points, and we also drop 3 cards. We have 5 in hand, so we're going to have 8. We'll have to toss 1 of them. Here are the 3 cards that I've drawn up: Sky Javelin, Atlas Guard, as well as this Heroism card. I'm going to choose to discard this card from hand, so now we're down to 7. And during the journey phase, I'm not going to go ahead and move anywhere. I'm going to stay exactly where I am. I want to interact with this quest for the exploration phase. The quest again is called Stormglass Lens. During a Void Tempest, a critical lens from one of the Spellrift's warding pylons was lost. Rumors say a plane-traveling merchant in a distant realm now possesses it. We can try to complete the quest by negotiating with the merchant using Charisma, which is that yellow icon. We need a 7+ on this test. I'm going to go ahead and use these 2 cards from my hand. This one here relates perfectly to the actual test, and this one is a wild, so we get 2 d8s going into it. We're looking for a 7+. Let's see how we do off the hop. Not good. We're going to need to do some re-rolling. I'm going to actually use a card from hand here. This one is an instant, allowing me to reroll up to 2 dice in a test. So we'll go ahead and discard that. And let's roll once again. We're going to keep our legend points this time instead of using them to reroll. And there we go. We got a 7. That's perfect. That is a pass. So based on the successes, which we only have 1, it's 2 plus 1. So 3 XP coming through. We already have 3. So we get to level up and keep 1 XP. And then on top of passing the test and gaining a level up, and we have 1 XP remaining, we're also going to gain a bunch more, 7 more on top of it for a total of 8, meaning we can then level up again. So we have 2 back-to-back level ups right now, and we'll have 3 XP remaining. Now we'll go ahead and actually do the level up in just a moment, but first I want to mention this. So when you complete a quest, you gain 1 XP for each quest you completed so far, including this one. Keep the quest card to track this. So this is just an effect off of Hercules, so we're going to actually end up with 4 XP left over after both upgrades or level ups. This also progresses our personal objective, which is to obey the Oracle, and we need 3 of these quests completed, and the bonus we get at the end of our personal objective being completed is at the start of every journey phase, we get to draw an extra card. That'll be really beneficial. The quest token in the Ancient World is gone, and we're going to go ahead and level up, gaining 2 cards. I've drawn up the 3 cards. Let's select one and add it to our hand. We've got 3 different melee attacks across 3 different worlds that these cards pertain to. We also have differences in terms of what they relate to. We've got a combat ability here that says may reroll 1 die per attack. That's a nice one. Over here, this combat one says add 1 die to all your other attacks for melee. That could be huge. And then this one over here gives you extra dice with 2, but the round has a target getting a -3 defense against your next card. So basically leaving the enemy open for a big time attack. Out of the 3, even though these are uncommon, this one's common. I like this one as it's going to open up a spot for us to do big time damage without defense. So let's go ahead and take this one here. Now check this out, we got ourselves an uncommon, a common, and a common. This uncommon looks extremely good with 4 dice. That's crazy. Now I am looking at the skills as well. I'm just mentioning the combat side just because I don't want to go over everything on each of the cards. But these two are exactly the same. I think I'll go with Pain Strike. That's going to do it for my exploration phase. Now, it's worth mentioning all the things you can do during this phase. You can explore a location, as you've seen me do before. You can venture into a void rift trying to close it. We've done that. You can try to complete a quest. We've done that. You can initiate a combat. We've also done that. The only thing we haven't done is to rest. So if you choose to rest as part of the exploration phase, you're going to heal 50% of your maximum health rounded down. You gain a legend point. You draw a card. You remove all your conditions, positive and negative though. And then that's it. So essentially the rest allows you to recuperate, but you cannot do this if there's any monsters in the location you're in. We head into the boss phase, and Doom is going to increase by 1 because there's only 1 remaining enemy group in play. This boss card is called Echoes from the Void, and you'll see for the true solo, we're going to have 1 spawning of a Void Rift at World 5, and a Despair token coming in at World 2. So we'll deal with those in just a second. Let's read this. Villagers whisper of nightmares featuring a lidless eye. Rumors abound of animals vanishing, returning as twisted shadows with empty, hungry eyes that stalk their former owners' homes. There's an effect here at the bottom. It says, for the round, basically again, until this card is drawn. So that means that this one here is gone at this point. This new one replaces it. Heroes must discard 1 card to enter a tile with a Despair token from a tile without Despair. So we're opening up a new Void Rift, and it's going to be in world number 5 based on the card. So that's going to be in one of these 4 locations. Let's find out from the token. It's going to be a way in the back. So we now have a new Void Rift over here in the Reptilian world, 1 in the Fallen Gods world, and 1 in the Elven world. So we got some work to do. Next up is the Despair token. It's happening in world number 2, which happens to be the same world we're inside of the Ancient world. When you flip over one of these tokens, it's always going to be A, because Despair tokens always go to the A location. So 1 lands in the exact same location that we're in, and it's worth mentioning if a Despair token was already in that location, you instead place 2 Despair tokens. 1 of them is going to go to the next tile clockwise with no token in location A, and the other will go in the next tile counterclockwise without a token in location A. And if all 8 tiles have a Despair token, you immediately lose the game. So it's important to remember a world can never have more than 1 Despair token. As we head into a brand new round, we gain 2 legend points, jumping us from a 2 to 4. We also draw 3 cards. We currently have 6 in hand, so we're going to have to discard down to 7. All right, so I kept my original 6 cards that I had and added Club Spin to it. The other 2 I just drew up have ended up in the discard pile. Now, you guys might be curious as to what an actual Despair token does to us. First off, all tests on a location with a Despair have a +1 difficulty, so tests on location A, not in the entire tile, so it's specific to just that location. Moving into or out of a tile or a world with a Despair token costs 1 extra movement point, so that's worth mentioning. And successfully exploring a location with a Despair token removes the token and grants an immediate favor effect. So again, that's going to be the favor card. So if I wanted to deal with this Despair token, get rid of it, I would just sit here for the journey phase, head into it in the exploration phase, and try to go after one of those Ancient world cards and complete it. But strategically, we got a lot of Void Rifts to close. We got 3 of them right now. I don't want a boss card spawning more monsters. I also want to get the awareness track going for the boss so we can actually have the chance to take it down. So let's go ahead and leave this Despair and risk it. We're going to head towards this rift right here. So I'll use 1 of my legend points to go here, dropping me down to 3 legend points left. And now, because I'm going to be moving it from one world to the next, I'm going to take a look at this effect here. It says, heroes must discard 1 card to enter a tile with Despair. This tile I'm entering does not have Despair, and when I'm leaving from a tile without Despair. So this does not apply whatsoever. I don't have to worry about it. But when I'm coming through to here, I could actually discard a card that matches the same color as that world if I want to traverse within it. I can do the exact same thing actually inside of this world as well if I want to save some of my legend points if I'm trying to make serious progress. I'm going to discard this card from hand to generate a movement point when moving to a location that matches the color on the banner. And in this case, for the prototype, the banner color is a black on the card or darker color. And as you can see in the prototype, this is actually black, but they wanted to highlight it in a color that wasn't just black. And so it ended up turning purple. They'll be changing things like that in the final version to make sure all the colors coordinate perfectly. But basically what this means is I can go from location B to location C for just that spending of 1 card. And we'll spend another legend point to get into this Spellrift. Now, it is worth mentioning, I was in the location up here in A, which is the capital, essentially, of this world area. And remember, I had a favor card from way back, this one right here. I could have actually used this favor card when I was in here in order to draw 2 cards, but I didn't need to because I currently have a full hand of 7. Unfurling stairs. It says, in the dark realm, a glass staircase spirals impossibly through empty blackness. Ascending rapidly ages you, descending reverses time, stealing memories. Distant bells echo strangely, twisting reason as your mind struggles to decode glyphs in each step. Desperate to escape before your existence is consumed. We have a test to do looking for a 6+ success. This test is going to be using intelligence or wisdom. I'm going to bring this card in as I can use the wild for 1 die, which will help with the test. I can discard 2 cards per the basic ability during a test to add an additional of any color in. So we can definitely have 2 dice for this test. We're looking for a 6. Let's see how this goes. Both of these are not good. We can use an instant in order to reroll not only a miss, but a critical fail fumble as well. So we don't have to actually spend 3 legend points unless that's how we want to reroll that particular die. If you have a card that has instant to allow you to reroll dice, you can definitely reroll this without spending legend points. So we're going to go ahead and discard this card to reroll both of these dice. Let's see if we can get a 6 or higher. And we still didn't. Let's keep pushing to see if we can get that success. Let's go ahead and use a legend point here to roll 1 die. It's a 1-for-1 on using legend points. And we got a 7. We finally did it. The pass gives us 4 XP plus 1 for each success. So we have 1. We're going to get 5 total XP. You discern the glyph secret. Ascending thrice and descending twice stabilizes your passage. At the apex, you claim a relic from an altar, collapsing the staircase. Close the void rift and gain an item. Let's go ahead and close that void rift. We're going to up the awareness of the boss, and we're also going to grab an item. The item we found is a full plate of armor. This is awesome. +1 at each round. Enemies always attack you instead of your allies. That part's not going to matter as much, but the armor will certainly help. Now we had 4 XP. We gained 5, so that's 9. We take 5 away for a level up, and here are the 3 cards we have to choose from. We got ourselves a rare card in the center. I definitely want this one. That ends off the exploration phase. Let's head back to the journey phase. We're gaining 2 for our legend points. We're now up to 3, and we're getting 3 more cards. We have 3 cards in hand. The new ones coming into our hand, I'll show you right now. The first 3 are the new ones. This one, and this one. We already had these 3. Let's discard this card here to move from A to B. I'm going to discard this card here, which matches the world color, to move into a location that is green. And then use all 3 of the rest of my legend points in order to move from D to A, B, and then over here to D in this world. I couldn't make it to the Void Rift, but we can go ahead with an encounter in this world. So we have this. We're going to have a Champion's Feast if we get this. And it says right on it, we have bone beds. You stand upon a buried graveyard of giant reptiles, ancient bones humming with dormant power. Lizard folk shamans warn that only the wise may safely commune with the restless spirits bound here. This isn't good. We don't have any cards in hand out of the 4 remaining that tie to wisdom, but what we can do is discard 2 cards at a time to add another wild die into the equation. So we can go ahead and discard these 2 cards, and I can discard these 2 cards, basically getting rid of my entire hand to get 2 dice to try to make this happen. We're looking for a 6 or higher. Let's see how we do. We have no rerolls available. Here we go. That is awesome. 2 successes. So we get 2 plus the 2 successes in XP. So that's 4. It says your mind aligns with the spirits. Their whispers reveal forgotten secrets from ages past. And we gain 2 more XP. So 6 XP on top of the 4 we already have is 10, which means we can cash all of it in for 2 level ups. Let's go ahead and find out what we have. We have Once Isn't Enough, a Disorientating Blow, and Fortune's Throw. This looks like a great card for the future, especially around combat, but even coming up with the Void Rift I'm trying to get to just south of my position, this is going to allow me to add 2 wilds into the equation for dice, so that is nice. This next level up includes a rare and 2 uncommons to choose from. This card is too good for combat. I'm going to grab it. It also has a nice exploit. Whenever you succeed in a test, you get to heal. That's going to do it for my hero's turn, but one thing I forgot, when we completed the quest that was up here in this world, we should have drawn another quest to replace it, so here we go. This quest will be in world number 1, far away from where we are. We never even traversed this world anyway. It says an adventurer's guild seeks brave heroes willing to enter a cavern overtaken by dark webs where many explorers vanished. So let's find out where this quest is going to be located in world number 1. It'll be in the location A. And you'll see the quest marker up there in the Dwarven world in location A. It's time for Doom to increase. It's going up by 1 because there's one enemy group in play to 16. We're trying to keep it from going to 20 as it'll transition from monsters to elites spawning. And hopefully, in this boss card we're about to draw, we're not going to see any monsters. I hope. Let's reveal the next boss card and see what we have. We got Night Chorus of the Griffins, and it's going to have 1 despair coming in at World 1. And it says, on recent nights, moon-torn clouds have unveiled onyx griffins, circling in perfect geometric spirals. Wizards studying this phenomenon can find no cause, for each beat of the creature's wings echoes with nothingness. The effect says, open enemy cards until a griffin is revealed and spawn it on the lowest numbered tile with despair. Shuffle the rest of the cards. And also this ongoing effect that we previously had is gone. So first off, a despair token is going to location A, which happens to be exactly where the quest just landed, which is pretty wild. And the effect here says, open enemy cards until the griffin is revealed, so I'll go ahead and do that. Spawning on the lowest numbered tile with despair. And now this is going to be the lowest numbered tile, tile number 1, world tile. So ironically, everything is landing in that one spot. Now, as part of the prototype, I don't have the Griffin monster, so I'm not going to be spawning anything for this effect, giving myself a little bit of a break here, but in the final version, that's not going to happen for you. And remember that quest that I placed just moments ago, the Shadow Spinner's Nest? Well, there's 3 miniatures that show up in that same location per the quest card. And we head into a brand new round. We'll go ahead and uptick our legend points by 2, and we're going to drop 3 cards from the deck. We only have 1 card, so we'll have to replenish there, so we'll draw this card. We have 2 cards in hand right now. And here's the other 2 cards off the top of the deck, plus the one I just drew for a total of 5 cards. Well, I think you guys know exactly what I'm gunning for, and that's this location right here. So inside of here, I could go ahead and use this Enduring Wave card, which I will, in order to allow me to move 1 to here, and then we'll spend 1 of our legend points, dropping us down to 1 left over to get into the space with this Void Rift. Desert of dark mirages, you emerge onto dunes of black sand. A dark spire looms ahead, countless figures climbing endlessly upward, only to plunge into an abyss. Humanoid shadows rush at you amid illusions, making it nearly impossible to distinguish threats from mirages. You must fend off the cloaked creatures before they drag you into the abyss. We can use wisdom or strength, and we need a 7+ to pass. Let's go ahead and use this very powerful rare card I just picked up recently, giving me 3 for this particular test, which is awesome. That should hopefully do it. We need to get a 7 or an 8 in order to pass this, and with 3 dice, I'm hoping that can happen. We also have the ability to reroll once here. Now, I could technically discard 2 cards to add more dice in, but I don't think I need to do that. Let's see how we do. Now that, my friends, was an absolutely epic roll because we got 2 critical successes, 3 successes, and 3 successes. When we pass this test on top of the 4 here, that's a total of 10 XP we are gaining. It says, you pierce through the mirages, overcoming the shadowy assailants, reaching the spire, you shatter its foundation ruins, toppling the structure, you close the Void Rift, and gain 2 legend points. So we've gone up on the track by 2. Getting 10 XP means 2 level ups, which I'll do in just a second. The awareness of our boss has now gone up to 3. And here are the cards I have to choose from. We have the Olympian Call, Boundless Effort, and Glorious Uproar. Let's pick for our second level up. I'm going for this middle one here. We actually have 2 rares and a common, but I really like this one. Exploration phase is done. Back to a new journey phase for our character, jumping up 2 legend points to 5 and drawing up some cards. We have 5 in hand. We're drawing 3, so we'll have to discard 1. These are the cards I just drew up. I like what I have in my hand already, but I can only hold on to 7 total, so let's go ahead and put this one back in the discard. So we've got 7 cards now. Now, I like my hand of cards right now because these are going to help me, I think, with the enemies I have up here in the Rift. They're vulnerable to strength or red, so that's why I kept the 2 red cards I have in my hand. We're going to start to traverse through here as well as helping me with movement, so maybe during this we can get quite a ways towards these enemies. I used 4 legend points to get me from this location here, 1, 2, 3, and then 4. Let's try and close this Void Rift. It's called Market of the Stolen Breath. It says, through the Void Rift lies a ghostly bazaar lit by spectral lanterns. Shadowy vendors trade tainted coins for shimmering souls bound to golden leashes. At its center, a sinister broker grips a leash holding flickering spirits who silently plead for freedom. To end this macabre trade, you must outwit the merchant and free the spirits. We can use wisdom, or I believe that's intelligence, I'll double check, for 7+ success. Those icons are actually charisma in yellow and intelligence in blue. We're looking for 7+. Let's go with Charisma. I'll use these 2 skill cards. This is a wild for 2, so that brings 2 dice in, and then we'll use the Charisma off of this one here for 3, so we'll discard these 2 cards. We got 3 dice to roll. Let's see how we do. I got 1 for a legend point I can choose to use for a reroll. Let's see, we need a 7+, and we got it. Oh my gosh, just barely. So that pass is going to give us 4 XP plus the 1 success for 5, which is another level up. It says, spinning compelling promises. You distract the merchant long enough to seize and shatter the golden leash. Souls burst free, dissolving the market as lanterns extinguish one by one. Close this Void Rift and gain 3 legend points. Definitely need those. The Void Rift is now gone, and that is actually the last one remaining on the game, where we'll talk about this in just a second. Level up occurring right now. I can choose between these. We have 1 rare in the middle. Oh my gosh, that's crazy. 4 dice to all enemies. I have to go for that. Let's keep that one for future, so we'll put that in our hand. Now we've currently got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So we got 6 cards in hand. These 2 will go to the bottom of the upgrade deck. Also, the awareness of the boss has gone up to a total of 4. With the boss's awareness at 4, and we're looking for 7, we're getting closer and closer to encountering the boss in the future. Right now in the boss phase, we look for enemy groups. There are 2 of them in play right now, so this is going to tick up to 18. Now, as you remember, I just took out the only Void Rift token on the table, and when there's none, if you ever get a monster spawn icon as part of the boss card flip, then when you're trying to resolve that monster spawn and there's no Void Rifts to identify where the monsters come in, you'd roll a d8 beforehand to place a Void Rift. But in the case of this boss, there's also this end of boss phase effect here. It says, if there are no Void Rifts on the board, spawn 1 on World 8. So in this case, it really comes down to what happens off of the boss card. Let's go ahead and draw it. Here's the next boss card, and we are now out of the basic boss cards and now into the advanced ones. They'll be tougher, and for True Solo, we got a Void Rift spawning. It's going to be spawning on World 8. We'll do that, and then a Despair token in World 8 as well. And then we got some flavor text and an effect to deal with. The Void Rift is going to open up in world number 8, which is great because we're right next to it. That's awesome. Let's find out what location it's in. It's going to be in B, and B is back here. And a Despair token shows up in world number 8. It lands in the A location. In the cold lands, an ink-black halo appeared, obscuring the sun. Endless snowflakes fall, each bearing a spiral iris that glazes back at those who look directly at them. Within villages, hearth fires dim and desperation spreads as shamans, unable to sleep, murmur chilling prophecies. We have an effect here for the round. It says each hero who ends the journey phase in a tile with despair loses 4 HP. So if we start heading into there to deal with that rift, we are going to be dealing with some health hits. Let's head into the next round of play. We're going to jump up by 2 in the legend points, so we now have 6, quite a bit going on there. We're going to drop 3 cards. We currently have 6 in hand, and we'll see what we get. So we got ourselves the guard card, we have a strike card, and we have a heroism card. We have to choose which one of these 7 we want to keep. I'm going to choose to let these 2 go. We'll keep the other 7, and I'm thinking about the cards I'm going to need as I go through here. So first off, I'm thinking about actually fighting these enemies that are here because they're vulnerable to red cards, and I've actually kept a number of them in my hand. And then I've also got some of these yellow cards as we head up to that world that ties in. I should be able to generate some movement to get to that Void Rift. Maybe we can do the enemies in the first turn for my hero, and the second turn we can go for the Void Rift. Let's sit tight for our journey phase. In the exploration phase, I'm going to choose to fight these enemies. We're going against these corrupted. There are 3 of them, so we got 3 tokens here. They all go for 4 HP to start based on what's right here, and they have a defense initially in the round of 4. We're going to be using all 4 dice. So first, we're going to roll these dice to determine their intent for each one of them because they're all unique. So the blue, they've got a 2, a 4, and a 4. So we have 1 that's going to be coming after us with a hit and building up some defense. The 4s are going to be hitting us straight with 3 hits each. Now this might be pretty insane, but I'm going to commit a lot of heavy attack cards in this one. First off, these 2 are going to hit the vulnerability of the enemies, but these 2 are going to be ranged to start things off. Into the range step we go. I'm going to resolve this card first. I have to choose a target of one of these 3. I'm going to choose the one that doesn't have any defense, so one of these 2 4s would be fine. Let's go with the green one. So we'll attack this one with the Sky Javelin. Let's roll 2 dice and see how we do. It's not going to get the benefit of vulnerability, though. Let's see. We got ourselves a 7 and a 2, so we got 1 hit, which is good. So 1 success, which means 1 damage gets through, dropping it from 4 down to 3. Now I've got a lot of legend points. Let's go ahead and actually re-roll the 2 and just see if we can pull off something else. I got 6 legend points. We'll drop down to 5. Let's make the roll and see if we get lucky here. We got a 6. That's another hit. So that card is now resolved, but the actual increase here for the round is going to increase dice for all the rest of the attacks, which is awesome. Going to the next ranged attack here, this is a big one. It says 3 dice being rolled to all enemies plus 3 per card you choose to discard. I've got 3 cards in hand. I'm going to discard this 1 card here, so that's going to go away to boost this up. So now it's going to be 3 plus 3, so 6 dice being rolled, and these are going to affect all the enemies. All right, let's see what kind of damage we can do with all this attack. Here we go. Ranged attack like crazy. The Sunburst, I'm hoping to blast a bunch of these. I'm pretty happy with this roll. We didn't get any fumbles or essentially critical fails at 1. So we have a bunch of misses, which we could potentially re-roll if we need to. This is going to give us 3 successes and 1 success. Again, this is thanks to the exploit, so that's a total of 4 right there. Now that for sure is going to kill off the green one. It will also kill off the red one because both of those have no defense. But based on the 2 that was rolled, this one has 1. So I would need 1 more to get over with a success to kill all of them right now. So let's go ahead and spend 1 legend point to reroll one of the dice and hope to see anything that resolves a hit. And we got a 5, and that's all we needed. So at the end of the day, I kind of burnt 2 cards over what I needed, and this again will come back to how much you play the game and you start to learn what these things can do and potentially not waste too many cards in combat, but sometimes the dice are not going to go your way and you're going to wish you had more cards in before the end of the round because of course the enemy gets to hit you back for ranged attacks and then you do your melee and then they do their melee, but in this case we wiped them out completely. We gain 3 XP. So we gain 3 XP, which is not enough to level up because this is all we have right now, so that's not bad. We're working our way up to 5. It also says here when you win a combat, you can move 1 toward a quest and gain 1 legend point. So let's bump ourselves up by 1. These monsters are going away. I'm going to go ahead and move. We'll head down to C as we need to get to C, then B, and then through to the next world. Let's go into our second hero turn for the round. So we're going to go ahead and jump up by 2, which means we've maxed out our points here for legend points, which is great. We're going to drop 3 cards. We only have 2 in hand, so we definitely need them. Let's see what we get here. We got ourselves the Pillar Breaker Blow card. We got ourselves the Delivery card, which is a rare, if I'm not mistaken, and the Club Spin. So my character's going to spend 1 legend point moving to here, and we're going to spend 2 legend points as it costs an additional 1 when you move into or out of a world with a despair token. So it costs a little extra to get through. Now, as much as I want to go after the Void Rift, I'm actually changing my strategy because we're currently at 18 Doom. We're very close to hitting 20. We're not going to because there's only 1 enemy group out in play, but we kind of want to keep the Doom in check and keep it away from the Elite section as much as possible. So maybe instead of stopping at the Rift here, we'll stop here and deal with the Despair token, because if we do actually successfully complete one of the world cards, we can deal with the token, and the ability, the favor on the other side, reduces the Doom by 2 at the A location if we turn it in, and A is right where it is. So it makes a lot of sense to go there. 2 more legend points spent. We have 2 more remaining, so we burned 5 total to get to where we're at. We're now going to go ahead into the exploration phase and deal with the Despair token. We're going to go ahead with the world card and reveal it. And when there's a Despair token at the location that you're doing one of these world cards, it's going to increase the difficulty of the test you do by 1. So instead of it needing a 6, it's going to be a 7. This one's called the Royal Archives Puzzle. Deep in the Palace Library, scribes puzzle over a newly discovered codex rumored to hold secrets against the void. Its cryptic symbols baffle the realm's top scholars who beckon you to crack the code. Now this test requires intelligence. My character currently on the skill cards below don't have any intelligence icons or any wild icons, so that's not good. We're going to go ahead and discard these 2 cards using a basic ability from my dashboard to be able to pull in 1 die for any skill test. Basically, it's a wild, so we're going to go ahead with 1 D8, not bad. What else do we have here? This one here, I could do what it says here is an instant, draw 2, and then discard 2. So let's go ahead and actually discard this, and we're going to draw 2, hoping to find things that maybe will help us with rerolls or something else. We got this one here, and we got this last one here. Now we have to discard 2 from our hand. I'm going to get rid of these 2 cards right here, and we'll keep these 2 because I have a plan to use this bow right now in order to get another wild in on this skill check. So we'll go ahead and add another die into the fray, which is good. We're looking for a 7, not a 6, remember, so I'm trying to up how many dice that I have, and I'll keep this card for future use against what we want to do up top to the north. Let's go ahead and make a roll. We have 2 legend points, hoping to get a 7 on the die, and we definitely did not. So let's go ahead and use a legend point to reroll one of these, and hope for a better result. Come on, 7 or 8. There we go. We got ourselves our success. Now this is awesome. It counts for 3 on top of the 2, so it's going to be 5 XP. Your insight reveals a crucial warding ritual allowing the court wizards to help protect the realm. This is awesome. We get to reduce the doom just from passing this, and now we've got this favor we can put nearby. And again, if we're at the location A, we can cash this in to reduce the doom even further. And 5 XP is another level up, so we got 3 cards here to choose from. This time I'll go with Divine Resilience. It goes right into my hand. I've got 2 cards in hand. So the Despair token has been removed from this location. Now, getting rid of a Despair token comes with another benefit, and that is you immediately get to take advantage, without actually spending a favor card, the world effect. So on the back of the world deck, you'll see the effect for that world, and in this case, it's to reduce the doom by 2. So we immediately get to take advantage of that, plus the one we got off the pass result. So that's going to drop the doom from 18 down to 15. And as always, when you pass a world card, you get to keep it as a favor card, so we still have this. And because we are sitting inside location A and it's within our turn, we can absolutely go ahead and spend this card right now, which is awesome to reduce the doom even further, dropping it down to 13. So I'd say overall that was a very effective turn. We're now headed into the boss turn. The doom track is going to increase based on the number of enemy types. We just wiped out 1 enemy group. There's only 1 more left, so this is going to jump up by 1. Now, one thing I want to mention right now, I had to do retroactively, is it says here each hero who ends their journey phase in a tile with despair loses 4 HP. So when we were in here, I ended my journey phase in this one, which means I'm safe. There was no despair token at the time in here, dealt with the enemies, then moved into here and ended my journey phase. At that point, before I went and dealt with the despair token, I should have taken a 4 HP hit. So I can just do that retroactively. There's no gameplay impact, but that'll drop me from 20 down to 16 health. The next boss card drawn is called Silence of the Stars. We have a Rift opening in World 1 and a Despair token in World 4. The Rift token, after flipping it, was C, and it's way up there now. And the next one's going to be Despair. We know that'll be at A, and it's going to World number 4, which is going to be all the way down here south. Let's read the narrative as well as the effect we have to resolve. Last night, the stars vanished from the skies, replaced by countless eyes whose gaze seemed to steal reason and courage, driving those who stared into endless madness and darkness. The effect says each hero has to make a check here on a 5+. It's a success. Draw a card. On a failure, you gain a madness condition. This is a wisdom check, and based on the cards I have in hand, I can actually make a roll against this wisdom check. I could use both cards to get 3 dice if I wanted to. I'll discard both of these to get 3 dice. Let's see if we can make the check. The check, again, is going to be 5 or higher. This might be overkill, but I really don't want a condition like that. And we got an 8. We only had 1 die that actually got over. Now here's what the madness condition would have been if I had failed the test. It would give a -1 to intelligence test. It says your maximum hand size is reduced to 6, ends during a rest. If you gain focus, both effects are canceled. So focused is the opposite of madness. So essentially once you have the opposite, when you already have the other, it cancels itself out. So the game comes with a number of conditions you can get, positive or negative, and you can always attempt to rest when there's no monsters in your location. That just gets rid of everything that you have that's either a positive or negative condition. So you might have 2 positives and 1 negative and really want to get rid of that negative. Well, unfortunately, you're losing every condition you have tied to you. Let's head into the next round of play. So we're going to bump ourselves up by 2 for legend points. We have a total of 3. We have no cards in hand. We're drawing up 3. We got Club Spin, we have Boundless Effort, and we have Pillar Breaker Blow. Now, without a doubt, my mission is to get to that next Rift token, which is right beside me. We'll spend 1 from our legend points, dropping us down to 2 to get into that space, and we're going to interact pulling a Rift card. Let's see what we get off the top of the deck. The card is called Library of Unwritten Ends. Beyond the rift, endless shelves rise like dark cliffs. Blank tomes ooze ink across the floor while gears rumble above, consistently rearranging corridors into an inescapable maze. Only 1 tome reveals how to halt this mechanism if you find it in time. This test requires either intelligence or wisdom to perform, so let's take a look across the cards that I've got, and I can tell you I only have 1 card that actually ties back to this, and it's this one right here, so it can be 2 or for this one here, which is wisdom. Now, just to be clear about this, you might look at it and go, well, that's 2 for strength or 1 for wisdom. It's actually interpreted 2 for either strength or wisdom. In the final version, that will be more clear. Most likely it will be a 2 with the red icon, a 2 with the wisdom icon. So at this point, this card alone will provide me with 2 d8s, which is perfect. Let's go ahead and roll the dice here. We're looking for a 7+. It's a pretty high roll, but we do have some legend points to spend. We got a 7 right on the dot. We're doing good. That's awesome. We get another pass. Another Void Rift is closing up. We also get 4 XP plus the 1, so we get to level up. So I won't even take the XP. We're just going to go right to the level up. You discover the elusive volume and decode its hidden script. Golden light flares from the pages, freezing the roaring gears and pushing back the darkness. Draw 1 card and close this Void Rift. Now I'm going back to a card that I forgot to take advantage of for this section right here that says to gain an item. So I'm going to gain this retroactively. No gameplay impact, except I missed out on using it anytime between when this was resolved and now. And it ends up being a necklace. And this says each time you complete a quest, you get to heal 2 or draw 1. So that's a perfect one to get, as it had no gameplay impact whatsoever. For the Void Rift I just closed, we get to draw up a card. So this is going into my hand. The Void Rift way up top left is gone, as well as the awareness of the monster going up to 5. Time to do an upgrade. We got 3 cards here, a common, a rare, and an uncommon. This sounds crazy. The True Might of Hercules. This is insane. I'm definitely going with that center one. So at this point, I've got 4 cards in hand, and we're going to end off my turn going into my second turn right now. So we're drawing up 3 more cards, which will be a maximum of 7, which is perfect. Let's see what we add to our hand. We got the Will card here. We got ourselves Heroism, as well as another one of the exact same, and we bump ourselves up by 2 on the legend points. All right, my friends, let's push for this next Void Rift. We're getting closer and closer to having the boss appear. We need 7. This one you can see right inside of the Dwarven world will give us our 6th if we get to it. I'm going to discard these 2 cards right here to move within the same world from location B to A and then to C. And then I'll use 2 of my 4 legend points to get myself right into the space with a Void Rift token. Let's try and close it. Garden of Moonless Seeds. Beyond the Void Rift sprawls a twisted orchard of obsidian trees, dripping darkness and scattering spores that swiftly bloom into skittering shadow spiders. At its heart rises an enormous black oak, bleeding malignant sap, but to reach it you must overcome swarming spiders and grasping vines alike. Now this is a strength or agility test 7+, so let's take a look at our cards and see what we can do. Let's use the bottom skill portion for a rally. I can use strength, 3 dice going in. We're looking for a 7+, and I do still have legend points, 2 of them to spend if I need to reroll. Come on, and we did not get it this time. Let's go ahead and think about what we want to do next. Do I want to reroll? Do I have anything that allows me to reroll from my hand? Let's take a look here. I do. Actually, I do. I have the club spin, so we're going to go ahead and use an instant to reroll up to 2 dice. We'll just take 2 dice and roll again, hoping for better results. And we got it. And what's even better about this is we got ourselves a critical success and a success. So that's 4 right there, plus 4. So that's 8 XP on top of the 3 we already have on our dashboard. That's going to be 11. So that is 2 level ups happening with 1 XP remaining. That's going to be nice. You strike swiftly, piercing the corrupted trunk. Violet mist spills forth, dissolving spiders and wilting the orchard as spores fade harmlessly into the void winds. Gain 2 for our legend points and close the Void Rift. I'm now back to 4 legend points. The Void Rift has been closed and the awareness of the enemy, or I should say the boss, jumps up to 6. Now it's time for our level up. We have this training card here, which is uncommon, a common Fated War and Fortune's Throw. Now, retroactively, I have to make a correction here because when we move from this world tile into this tile, it should have cost an additional point of movement beyond what we spent because there was a despair token in there. So I'll drop myself down by 1 to account for that. And I had it at the time, so I could have done it. Also, the difficulty level of any tests only increase in the same location as a despair token. So that would not have affected the test to close the actual rift. I'm actually a pretty big fan of this training one here, giving me additional armor for every attack I play. So if I have a really heavy attack, and you can play as many cards into the committed line that you want to during a round, this could be really beneficial. The other 2 will go away. And the second level up looks like this. We got Boundless Effort, we have Olympian Call, and Once Isn't Enough. I'm going to go with Once Isn't Enough. I like being able to execute an attack twice in a round. Pretty cool. So now we've got a total of 5 cards in hand. On to the boss phase. The doom's increasing based on the enemy groups. We have 1 in play, so jumping up to 15. This is the final advanced card in the deck. We'll be going to the next stage of difficulty with the boss for the next draw. This one's Darkness Descending Convergence. And this card looks like our roughest yet. We have a Void Rift coming out in World 4. We have a monster spawn to deal with and a Despair coming into World 2. We have some text here. It says, worldwide, portals to the void are opening, shaped like distorted eyes. They bleed darkness in the night sky. One can sometimes glance at an astral pupil overlooking the land as if searching for something. The effect here is persistent at the end of the round. Increase the doom 1 per Void Rift on the map. When closing a Void Rift, place this token over this card. End this effect when 3 tokens were placed, then return them to the pile. The Void Rift that's spawning happens to be in world number 4, which is right here. And I flipped the token over already. It is in D, so it'll be right here. Now, I've done a decent job of dealing with the Void Rifts quickly because now when a spawn for the monster happens, there's only the rift that just opened, which will have a monster spawn here. So we're pulling a monster card for this as we're not in elite territory on the Doom track yet. It's not 20 or above. And it's not a monster at all being spawned, it's an event. It says March of Darkness. All monsters on the map move 1 in the direction of the Spellrift. Monsters that reach the Spellrift increase doom by 1. If there are no monsters on the board, discard this card and draw a new one. Well, that's not going to apply because there are monsters on the board, so we're going to move them, and there's a reminder at the bottom that says monsters at the Spellrift increase doom by 2 at the end of the round instead of 1. Now, the reminder on the card is just speaking about something we haven't had to deal with yet, but it's worth talking about now. So normally when we increase the doom every single round and monsters are present in any of the 8 worlds around the rift tile, they only count for 1 doom increase for their group. But if that monster group happens to be inside the spell rift tile, it's going to count for 2. That's what that reminder is all about. So as of right now, this card is saying that right now, if any of the monsters take a move 1 and reach the spell rift, they're going to immediately increase the doom. And guess what? This group right here is going to absolutely be able to get inside with 1 move, and the doom is going up by 1. So the doom track has jumped up to 16, and like I just mentioned, at the end of every round, those monsters stay in there. They're now going to be hitting us for 2 doom every single time. And we're not out of the woods yet. We still have a despair token to spawn in World 2, which is going to be this world right here, but there's already a despair token here. So when there's already a despair token in the world it's supposed to spawn into, you're now going to spawn 2 despair tokens. The first will be in clockwise order in the next world that has an available location A, which will be this one right here. So 1 despair token here, and then you're going to go counterclockwise and find the next world that doesn't have one, and that's going to be all the way around as each of these have one back to here. And what's bad about this is now this world, this one, this one, this one, and this one all have a despair token. That's 5 of the 8 worlds. And again, if all 8 have a despair token, you lose the game. And we've got to deal with this persistent effect that'll be here, increasing the doom even further as we go along through gameplay until I close 3 Void Rifts. And that, my friends, will wrap up part number 1 of Spellrift Legends, coming from Jagori Games, landing on GameFound in the very near future. If you want to see the exact date as well as the campaign page link, I've got it for you in the pinned comment and video description. Also, stay tuned to the channel and subscribe if you haven't already, as we'll be diving into finale gameplay to see whether I can actually pull out a victory with the despair creeping across the land. If you're not part of our Discord or the Facebook group for the solo community, we'd love to see you in either spot. Let me know in the comments down below any questions, thoughts you have around this one. Would love to hear from you, or if you just enjoyed the video and found it helpful. Thanks again for watching, and as always, keep on rolling solo.